Shall we get started? Short prayer and then a couple of verses to chant. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so let us chant verse number 20. And then 24, 25 and 26. So 20, starting with 20. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama chetyam shapanchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tatodvayam. Number 24. Kamadya chittaga drishyaha tatsakshittvena chetanam dhyayet drisyanuviddhoyam samadhi savikalpakaha asangas satchidanandaha swaprabho dvaita varjitaha asmiti shaptaviddhoyam samadhi savikalpakaha. Number 26. This we will do twice. Swanubhuti rasa veshat drishya shabdanupekshituhu nirvikalpa samadhi syat nivata sthita deepavat. Swanubhuti rasa veshat drishya shabdanupekshituhu nirvikalpa samadhi syat nivata dhisthita deepavat. Okay. So as we know that in verse number 23 we saw that samadhi, so samadhi, which is the culmination of our learning and our experience, personal experience from this knowledge, is what samadhi is. So samadhi means samahita buddhi. Samahita buddhi. So that can be looked at it as a samahita buddhi, or it could be looked at as a culmination of our knowledge. So samadhi means that my leading a life is very pleasing and very predictably pleasing. This is what really samadhi means. So the opposite of samadhi is a great way for understanding what samadhi is. The opposite of samadhi is the way we lead our lives. And what is that? If we examine your mind and examine how our thoughts are and our approach towards life, our conclusion about ourselves and everything around us, if you look at that way, what you find is that there is certain uncertainty and also a desire to be better than what I am now. This is what happens. So at any one time, we are really a mixture of a doer and an enjoyer, a karta and a bhokta. So bhokta means that you assess at any one time. This is a continuous process. It's not as though you stop and then you are a bhokta and then you are a karta. Not like that. It's a continuous process where at any one time you are both evaluating where you are at the moment in terms of your. And how do you evaluate where you are in your moment? It is the state of your mind. That's it. You're just evaluating yourself and whether you're happy, unhappy, or something in between. This is a very interesting thing. This is called kashaya. We'll actually go into that in some detail. So this is called kashaya. So kashaya means that it's you're not really unhappy, but you're not very happy either. It's somewhere in between. And so anyway, this our situation of non-samadhi, this is what I'm describing. The non-samadhi is that you have a life which is characterized by uncertainty, desire, hope for the future, and as a result of that, an emphasis of doing something. This is the thing that we should see. That means that it's really true for all of us at all times. This is fundamental to our lives, and which is that we kind of assess where we are, and we find that we are not completely happy. This is another interesting thing to know this. This is an important thing to know. The nature of things are that you want to acquire a status which is natural to you. You want to really get to the point where you are comfortable. This is the samadhi that we talk about. So the simple example given is that if something is bent out of shape, it tries to get back into the shape. So this happens to even a twig. So if you were to sort of bend, not a ripened twig because that will break, but something which still has some water in it, and if you bend it, it goes back to the straightness of itself. If you put a dam in a river, it doesn't do what to do because you have put a dam, but as soon as you remove the dam, it flows towards the sea. So the natural end of a river is merger with the sea. And until it reaches there, it is not comfortable. So similarly, our life of non-samadhi is characterized by the fact that I am still in the process of living. Why am I in the process of living? Because I have not reached my final natural being. And the interesting thing is that it's not as though somebody has to teach you that. Not as though, you need to reach your natural being. No. Our natural being is unconditional, total freedom of happiness. This is our natural being. And so therefore my life is characterized by uncertainty, as I mentioned before, doubts, and then finally culminating in some action. Because clearly we are not very happy with ourselves and we don't know how to be. And so the only thing that we do know is that I can do something about it. If you don't do anything about it, your happiness continues on. If you do something about it, at least you feel I'm doing something. So you feel good about it. At least there is that feeling. It is an interesting thing that, they say that if supposing you have, I wouldn't say depression, but if you just are unhappy, then take up something to do and get busy in it. And that gives you a certain solace in the meantime, And I find, for example, that if I have some time on my hand, I immediately do something useful. And so that keeps me busy in feeling good about myself and so on. And so this is characterized by all of us. So this is the state of non-samadhi. So the state of non-samadhi means that I am I wouldn't say in turmoil, that's too strong a word, but I am bubbling with some uncertainty and doing things that I want to do, evaluating. Am I completely done? No, I'm not completely done, so let me do some more. Like that. This is what it is. Okay? And this is very natural to us because nobody has to teach you that, because you are naturally trying to be somewhere which is your nature, which is total happiness. Okay? So now the Vedantic teaching comes in and says that you should reach a sense of samadhi. And so samadhi means samahita chittam, samahita buddhi. Samahita buddhi means that you feel I am done. You feel I'm happy. And so this feeling of you are done and you are happy is given as a small taste to you now and then. Certainly in the deep sleep state, without your understanding it, you are that. And also after eating some meal or something, or accomplishing something, supposing you have a task due and you're working hard and you've finished it, for a while you feel, wow, I did it. You feel good. So you approach a sense of happiness. But it doesn't last. It doesn't last. And so you keep going. But samadhi means that your sense that you are accomplished and done is really for you, for good, is called samadhi. And so this was given in verse number 23, where he says, Savikalpaha nirvikalpaha samadhi dvividho shridihi drishya shabda anuvedena savikalpaha punardvidha. So he says that the samadhi can be with changes or without changes, with thoughts and without thoughts. Right? It doesn't mean that thoughts are necessarily bad for you. It doesn't mean that. So, for example, you can be happy while doing things. So it's not as though that all thoughts are bad. But just the uncomfortable thoughts that something is wrong with me is not tolerated by you. Otherwise, you are happy. Even if supposing you are supposed to do something and you have to go somewhere or do something, you're happy. This is what is called savikalpaha. Savikalpaha means that even though it is accompanied by some changes, because work is change, thinking is change, and so that's okay, no problems. But compared to that, a thoughtless state where you are appreciating the fact that you are done, you are happy, is something better, which is called nirvikalpa samadhi. And so then, just almost like a revision of the last few lessons, then comes verse number 24, because the savikalpaka samadhi is two types, not twice. It is two types. One is hridihi and one is bahihi. Hridihi means inside and the one is outside. So we will see the outside later, but now we have been looking at inside. So the inside was given again in two different ways inside. One is called Drsya Anuvedhena Savikalpa Samadhi, and the other one is Shabda Anuvedhena Savikalpa Samadhi. So as we saw in verse number 24, it was Drishya Anuvedhena Savikalpa Samadhi. That means you observe your thoughts as they appear in your mind and begin to see the distinction between one which is and one which happens. So really speaking, one very good way, I would just offer another very good way to look at Asti Bhati Priyam and Nama Rupam, that was presented as the basis of your analysis, basis of your discriminative thinking in verse number 20. Okay? So let me offer you another way to distinguish between the unchanging and the changing. Because that distinction is the key for our going forward with this teaching. Okay? And so another way to look at it is the following. Things that happen and the one thing that does not happen. So at the moment, I cannot separate them. Everything seems to happen. You also think that things are happening to me. And really speaking, everything that you are associated with, which is your body, and the body means what? Body is consisting of cells that are continuously changing. What is it? I forget that the time period when all the cells in your body have completely become new. I don't remember how much it is. Is it? I don't remember. I remember the word 7, but I don't know if it's 7 minutes. No, it cannot be 7 minutes. Is it 7 hours or 7 days or 7 years? But it's continuously changing. Okay, so that's one thing which is continuously changing. The second one is the physiological functions in your body, continuously changing. Your breathing, your elimination system, your circulation system, your your air through the blood flow, the heart, everything is moving, changing. And then your mind, your thoughts. You cannot still it. You cannot still it. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks his teacher that Sri Krishna, you're talking about controlling your mind, but I cannot do it. There's no way for me to control my mind. It just keeps on moving. And so one of the things is that my mind is continuously changing. The physiological changes are prana is also changing. The physical body is changing. Everything is changing. Changing means they're happening. You just wait for a second and you will see what is happening to you. And there is some small things that are happening to you and some big things are happening to you. So something is unrevealed and something is revealed. But it is happening. Now, unfortunately, many times we find that there is a disease that had not manifested. It happens all of a sudden. Very unfortunately, some of our friends, one very, very close friends. I mean, this is a first-hand experience. My wife had met her one day to give her something when my son got married in June. He had given some gifts to people, and so we went to her house to give her a gift, and she was happy and everything was fine. Do you know, 2 days later, she found out that she was in the 4th case of cervical cancer. And she's struggling with it. I don't know if she can survive or not. All of a sudden something happened to her. It was happening inside, but it wasn't manifest. Anyway, so it was happening. There is one thing. So one can say, is everything happening to me? Because my assessment is, this is what I am. My mind, my thoughts, my body, my prana, this is who I am. And all of it is changing. So that means I am changing. Excuse me. So Vedanta says no. You are actually not happening. So a good way to look at this is also to just do a meditation. What is happening and what just is and does not happen? It already is and continues to be and always will be. Doesn't happen. That is the Atma. So a good way I suggest to you to do this Savikalpakaha Drishya Anuvedhena Savikalpaha Samadhi in verse number 24. Kamadhyaha Chittagaha Drishyaha Tat Sakshittvena Chetanam Dhyaye Drishya Anuvidhoyam Samadhi Savikalpakaha. So a good way to do this, one way to approach this, these are just words but important words, is see the distinction between things that are happening and I that does not happen. And at first it may be difficult to do, but eventually you will begin to draw a clear distinction. Like, for example, in the case of waves in the water. The waves are happening, but the water always is. There's no change in the water. There's change in the shapes of the waves, but the water itself. So the identity is with the water. And so similarly here also, you begin to appreciate, I do not happen. I am the same consciousness that I was when I was young. Same consciousness. I remember this. I really enjoy this meditation sometimes. I recall vividly my first day in school. Because for the first few years, because of where I was, nowadays you have kindergartners being sent to school very early on. And really speaking, Swami Dayananji has said that going to be separated from your mom is traumatic. Is traumatic. In fact, I find that the kids these days, the schools also have improved a lot and so on. I sometimes, when my granddaughters were getting school age and I would sometimes pick them up, I was very happy to see that they were in a great mood at the end of the school. They were happy to go to the school and so on. And perhaps, I don't know whether they had an uncomfortable day in the beginning, but by the end of the day, they were very happy. I was homeschooled for the first 2-3 years because we were living in an area, there were no schools. Then I don't remember exactly, but I think I entered the school in the second or third grade, somewhere there in Amritsar, where I grew up. And my first few classes and days and even months were traumatic. I found that my mother had left me in the school and left. And the teacher was saying, "Hi, very happy to have you." But then she got very busy. She's very busy with things. And people were all teasing each other, bothering each other. I felt very lonely. And I remember that feeling. I remember that I was observing, who am I? Why are these things happening to me? And I was like 6-7 years old. What I'm saying is, it is the same assessment by the same Sakshi then as it is now. Same Sakshi, same consciousness. And that consciousness is bothered because it is focused on happenings, not on the non-happening. Crucial difference. So this is what verse number 24 is saying. Kamadhyaha chittagaha drishyaha sakshitvena se chaitanam. You just make a distinction between what is happening and what is not happening. Is there something which is not happening? In fact, this is so funny. The basis of the entire creation. Creation means every minute of our experience, every possibility of our life is not happening. It is the same as Parameshwara. There is only one Chaitanya Purusha as Parameshwara. can call it Ishvaraha, you can call it Brahma, you can call it God, you can call it anything. It's unchanging. Which is you. That's your own nature. So it's a very interesting thing that from a state of even doubting that there is something which is unchanging, you come to a state where you find that really everything is unchanging. So again, the analogy of the wave in the ocean. If your drishti, your viewpoint, your conclusion, your way of looking at things is as a wave, you find there are millions of waves all over just dancing and bothering you. And you're not knowing what to do. Everything looks like it's a change. But just a slight shift in your analysis or conclusion, where a guru wave comes in and says, what are you talking about? Why are you bothered? You are the very water which is changeless. Don't you see it? And once I see it, I find that all changes disappear. Because all changes are just arising out of and going back into the changeless. This is the vision that we have to clarify for us. It is the truth, but I just don't see it at the moment. That's all. And I will. That's the promise of Vedanta. You keep looking at it and you will find that one day, right now your mind is so bothered by the changes that you're not listening properly. Not properly means you're not convincing yourself, but you will. So this is the Drishya Anuvedana Sadhati. Then we saw that there is something deeper, which is not only Drishya Anuvedena but Shabda Anuvedena. And so these are the words of Vedanta, because the identification can be done not only as a drishya, as something where there is difference between drik and drishya, but in the words of the wisdom, which is Shabda Anuvedena. And words like Asangaha Satchidanandaha Swaprabhaha Dvaita Varjitaha Asmeti Shabda Anuviddhoyam Samadhi Savikalpakaha. Okay, so since there were 2 weeks, I wasn't planning to revise it this much, but that's how the thoughts come, and I let it spend a little bit more time in the revision of it. Okay, now let us go to the new verse number 26. So we already chanted that. So now the question is, how does one go from Savikalpaha to Nirvikalpaha? How do you go into a Samadhi which is relative as opposed to being absolute? What's the process? What happens? How does that happen? How does the Savikalpaha resolve into... Savikalpaha means Vikalpa saha vartate, one which is existing with changes, to one which is existing without any change. To do that, it is given this verse, Swa anubhutihi rasa aveshat drishya shabda anupekshituhu nirvikalpaha samadhi syat nivati sthita deepavat. So you look at the English translation of Swami Viditatmananda ji. He says that the person who drops cognized thoughts, because the cognized thoughts are termed to be drishyaha, right? In the verse number 24, drishyaha kamadhyaha chittagaha jitsyaha. These are cognized thoughts. So the person who drops the cognized thoughts and words, so that is in verse number 25, asangaha satchidanandaha, etc., etc., has nirvikalpaha samadhi due to the complete absorption in the true I that is at once consciousness and ananda. The absorbed mind is like a lamp placed in a calm, windless place. Unchanging, like a lamp staying in some place. You can see the flame. If there is some slightest wind, it just flickers. But if there is no wind, it just stays quietly. So like that, there is the mind which does not flicker. So we have a lot to say about all this. This will come later on. But this is the process where we go from savikalpaha to nirvikalpaha. Okay. So just some words to be understood first. One word is swa. Right? So the first one is swa. Swa means one's own. Mine. Not belonging to someone else, but mine. It's called swa. Anubhuti. Anubhuti means a experience. My own experience. Experience here means not something which is unknown, not something which is academic, which is theoretical, not conceptual. Just like, so the word anubhuti, so the word anubhuti actually stems from the Sanskrit combination of anu and bhu. Bhu means as you are. Bhavati, iti bhu. One that exists. And anubhuhu means that an experience which is following exactly what you are. That's the sort of technical definition of that. So anubhuti really just means an experience. Just like you say, I experience tremendous joy in listening to some music. These days, I'm, in the evening on the TV, there is some kind of a program coming on Christmas songs from New York. Very beautiful program, really enjoy it. And if I'm just moving around and so on and so forth, the TV is on in the evening. My wife watches it if she also doesn't watch a lot of TV, but if she's sitting down and doing something and she has the TV on, it has the songs being played. And if I'm also moving there, I listen to it sometimes. So beautiful, so nice. All the Christmas carols and so on. Really enjoy them because it gives me a peace and joy. So that's the experience. There's a couple of songs that I'm very fond of. One of them is called The Silent Night. Silent night, holy night. Like that, that's one. And so when I listen to it very well done, I have an experience of special joy. This is what is called anubhuti. So anubhuti means, swa-anubhuti means your own experience. Then comes the words rasa. Rasa. Rasa here means ananda. Rasa really means taste. So this is the thing about rasa and ananda, where it's a very important thing really, this whole thing about the word rasa. There's so much to really look into that. And so we in this new class that I started just a couple of hours ago on Brahma Sutra, I went over this in some detail. I don't know if any one of you were in that class, but so Jerry, I'll reiterate that in this class as well. So in looking at the Ananda section in the Panchadashi, Swami Vidyaranya and the combination of Swami Vidyaranya and Swami Maheshananda has explained the process of understanding the ananda of oneself. This is an important thing to see. So this is swa-anubhuti rasa aveshat. So I'll go through all these words so that we have a backing, and then we will put it together as a complete verse a little bit later on. So I may not be all done today, but just to give you an idea. So what happens is, what I was teaching in the previous class is that the same self is reflected in my mind differently at different times. Same self. That consciousness that I talked about, that I was remembering when I was a small child who was thrown into this unknown school without the love of my own mother. Same consciousness that all of us have. All of us have the same consciousness. So the consciousness does not change in time. When I was 6 or 7 and now I'm so much older, it's the same consciousness. So on one dimension the consciousness doesn't change, which is the dimension of the time. Another one is from one time, one person to another. Same consciousness. You have the same one as I do. When you are unhappy, it is the same as when I am happy. And when you are unhappy, it is the same when I was unhappy. Some shades of differences here and there. But all the resolution of that is only the same consciousness. So that being the case, that consciousness, whose nature is asti bhati priyam, satchidananda. So the asti bhati priyam is reintroduced in verse number 22, as you know. Upeksha nama rupe dve satchidananda tatparaha. So Satchidananda has just been renamed after asti bhati priyam. It's the same thing. Satyam jnanam anantam. So the Satyam Jnanam Anantam, which means asti, it is knowledge and it is unlimited. There's no limits to it, no time limits, no anything, and no limits to Ananda. So this is the thing, okay? So I'm making a point, so I hope I wrap it up for you, okay? since I did this for the earlier class, I will also just extend that to this class just for making an important point. Okay. So what we're saying was that sometimes a single vastu, a single entity, I don't want to call it a thing, but we can look at it as a thing as an example. So the example is that of the sun is the thing. So the sun is a single entity that is capable of at least displaying two qualities, and actually has multiple qualities. So it gives all these waves, gamma waves and beta waves. I don't know all those scientific terms that it gives, so leave aside those. But the sun has two qualities that it displays. One is light and the other one is heat. Very carefully designed by Ishvara. You cannot imagine, I tell you, you just observe the working of the sun and you discover the handicraft of Ishvara, of God. My goodness, how precise, what an important creation. Lots to talk about some other time. But if we just look at this one phenomena, that there are two aspects of the sun which are not separate from each other. The sun is the light as well as emanating the heat as well. Okay? Now, here's the thing. If you reflect the sun in water, for example, then, or even in a more clearer surface like a mirror. In fact, it's interesting that if you compare the reflection of the sun on a wall and compare that to the reflection in a mirror. So the sun is being reflected by the wall, but the wall is not made out of anything that can reflect its light. There is some kind of a room light you can get, so it's not as though it is zero, but it does not clearly show the light. But a mirror can clearly show the light. So clearly, in fact, that it is dangerous to look at the reflection of the sun in the mirror. It can really damage your eyes. So you can't look at it directly. So it reflects the light, but even the mirror does not reflect the heat of the sun. So here's the important process to see. If some reflection is there, it depends upon how accurate that reflecting surface is. And if it is not there, then it will only reflect some qualities and not the other qualities. So the qualities remaining the same in the sun, in the reflection it changes. Why are we saying all this? This is exactly what our situation is in our lives. The Atma, the Self, is both Sat, Chit and Ananda. They are not separate qualities from each other. They are not a combination. You cannot say that this consists of three parts. No. You cannot say that the sun consists of two parts. One is light and one is heat. It's the same thing, my dear, which manifests as two separate qualities. Similarly, the Atma also is Sat, Chit and Ananda. All three is the same thing. But now comes the interesting thing. The reflection of the Atma in the mind. That's what it is. Really speaking, when you are evaluating yourself, as we were discussing earlier, you're uncertain about things, you're uncomfortable about things, and you're changing and all of this. So it all stems from a self-evaluation. You're continuously doing self-evaluation. That self-evaluation is based on what? It is based on your own reflection in your mind. That's what it is. The jiva, the living person endowed with the body, mind, physiological functions as we discussed earlier. This is the definition of jiva. So that person, its entire life depends upon its self-evaluation. And the self-evaluation is based on its reflection. How can we say that? Because it is a drishya. It is not drik. It is observed. It is not observer. So what you observe is the reflection of yourself. And that reflection can be either opaque, like a wall reflecting the sun, or it can be like the mirror, where it is reflecting both the isness as well as this is an important thing to do. In fact, this is all that we will do today. To look at the segmentation of the reflection, how it segments. So the segmentation is that occasionally when I am tamas, I am either completely unhappy or I am not knowing who I am. This is, I think I am, but that's all. You know, it's in, you find a lot of people who are just existing, not really living. No purpose in life, no happiness, there's nowhere to go. You see some of the homeless people on the street sometimes, they've lost all hope, just sitting there existing, waiting to die. So this would be a tamasic reflection. Tamasic reflection means that the status of the reflection is like a wall, because the sun is falling on the wall also, but it doesn't reflect the sun very well. So this is the sat. And Swami Maheshananji has pointed out that out of these three areas, Sat, Chit and Ananda, the Sat is easiest to grasp. Then comes Chit. The Chit means one who is aware. So you find that I am an awareful being. I am observing the problems and non-problems and experiences and so on. I am the observer. The table doesn't observe, but I observe. So this is the Chit. But as a observer, I am caught with what I observe. So if my mind is unhappy, then I'm unhappy. The mind is happy, then I'm happy. So as an observer, I'm also caught up by the reflection. So this is the Chit. A little bit more difficult to appreciate, but it can be appreciated. The most difficult one is I am the Ananda itself. So therefore, a reflecting surface which accurately reflects which is called, the reflecting surface is called pratibimba, and the original one is called bimba. In fact, you cannot have a pratibimba which completely accurately reflects you at any time. There's no way. Swami Maheshananji has said that if you're looking yourself in the mirror, it may accurately reflect the front of you. This is what I look like, this is how I am, this is my shoulders, and this is my face. Yes. But it doesn't reflect the back of you. It doesn't give you a three-dimensional picture. It only gives you a two-dimensional picture. And so no reflection can be completely accurate. The only accurate reflection are the words of the Shastra. And that says, Asangaha Satchidanandaha Swaprabhaha Dvaita Varjitaha. You're complete. That's the accurate picture. And I don't get it because I'm so used to seeing my reflection and not myself. So now we can close the loop on the words of this verse number 26. So one more thing to before I go there. So they're saying, the Shastra says, please learn to reflect your own self accurately, more accurately. You cannot do it completely accurately, but it will be close enough that you will enjoy your own reflection. So one of them is Sat. The more difficult one, but still possible, is Chit. And yet more challenging, but still there, still the truth, is Ananda. And how to enjoy your own Ananda? It is to develop the Sattvic Vritti, Sattva Gunaha, the Sattvic Vritti is important. So what is Sattvic Vritti? And it means an entire set of learning, appreciating, absorbing, clarifying what is happening. In fact, any learning requires the Sattvic Vritti. This is why it is called the creation of new things is the most pious thing in the whole creation. including the birth of the sexual union, creating the birth of a baby. All creation is given the most important place in the world. Whenever we create something new, it is very sattvic. Even if you're reading a book, your mind gets absorbed in a very sattvic way. You're not dancing around, which is rajasic, and you're not doing anything which is tamasic, but you're doing something which is very pleasant. It is called sattvic. And so this sattvic vritti, developing the sattvic vritti, is to develop the ananda, which is called the rasa. So now we can close the loop with this verse. Swanubhuti aveshat rasa aveshat. Swanubhuti rasa aveshat. By the entry of, so this word avesha is the one we will take up next. This is an important word. What does avesha means? What does the entry mean? We will look at 3 or 4 different ways of that, which will clarify the process, how you feel the ananda. Feel means you experience your own ananda. Because right now I don't feel my own ananda. I feel the ananda when I'm eating something good, some tasty food. Then I can feel my ananda. But my own ananda without any external aids, I don't know how do I feel? Way to feel that is developing a savikalpakaha samadhi, which is sattvic. And so more sattva guna becomes pradhana. More the sattva guna becomes pradhana means the focus and importance in your life. And so the sattvic food, sattvic thinking, and all of that has to be developed slowly. Because right now you feel that I'm unhappy and I need to do something. The fact of the matter is you are not intrinsically unhappy and you don't need to do anything. You are fine the way you are. But I don't accept it. No, I have to do something. The question is, what do I do? You're not listening to me. You don't need to do anything. But but this is the dialogue that happens in your own mind. And so this appreciation of your own inner ananda through sattva guna is the process of moving from savikalpakaha to nirvikalpakaha. This is what we are going to study and spend some more time on this next week on the verse number 26. So with that I close the class today and we will see you hopefully next week. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Right? Very good. So nice to see you all. I find a number of people who were also in the earlier class. I don't know how you listen to someone for so many hours. That's all glory to you. Thank you so much. And I continue, the more I take up the Drg Drsya Viveka, I find it's a very good foundational book. Very good. And so we will continue to build the fundamental foundations for further learning, all the way from the introduction to just the distinction between Drg Drsya Viveka. Then it talks about Vairagya, Mananam, and now focus on Ananda. This is really what the main focus is, on discovering one's own source of joy. Not hard to believe, but it is true. And so understanding the logic of it, the very experience of it, excellent introduction. I'm very happy about that. And Swami Viditatmananda's book is also a great aid, because he has done a marvelous job of touching all the bases, and his clarity of writing is excellent. So as a reference book, I highly recommend it. Unfortunately, I don't have any more copies left. I think a couple of people wanted that. But we can get it from Ahmedabad. So altogether, I think this is a good course of study. And what we will do is, when we finish it, I don't know when, we will actually quickly revise it one more time so that it consolidates your knowledge and your understanding. And so very happy with all of you being there. And I don't see any questions, so I take your leave, and hopefully we will see you next week.